Today, we're going to talk about something that quietly decides whether projects succeed or fail. It's called project risk management. Really, it's the art of seeing the invisible and getting a handle on all that uncertainty before it gets a handle on you. But first, why is this so incredibly important? Well, before we can jump into the solution, you've got to understand just how big the problem is. And the problem is, a ton of projects well, they don't make it. Get a load of this number. Over 50% of all projects fail. That's literally a coin toss. Can you imagine pouring months, maybe even years of your life, and who knows how much money, into something that only has a 50-50 shot? It's a massive issue, and a huge reason for it is just letting risk run the show. But what does failure even mean here? It's not always some big, dramatic explosion. A lot of the time, it's more like a slow burn, a bunch of little things that just keep going wrong. So what are the real faces of failure? Well, for one, it could be cost overruns that get so bad they completely wipe out any value the project was supposed to create. Or it's as simple as not delivering on time, like you missed the holiday season for that big product launch. Sometimes you actually finish, but the thing you built doesn't even do what it was supposed to do, or it totally misses the mark with customers. And maybe the worst one of all? You spend all that time and all that money only to deliver something that has basically zero value in the real world. Okay, that sounds pretty awful, right? But here's the good news. There's a way to take that 50-50 coin toss and stack the odds way, way in your favor. It's all about shifting from just reacting when things go wrong to proactively taking control of your project's future. And the secret isn't about working longer hours or just throwing more money at the problem. Nope. It's about a complete shift in how you think. It's the difference between being thrashed around by a storm and actually navigating through it. It's about looking down the road, thinking about what could go wrong, and having a plan ready to go before it ever does. And look, this isn't just some nice-sounding theory. According to the Project Management Institute, you'll hear them called PMI, a good risk management program can boost your chances of success by an incredible 90%. That is a total game changer. So how do we actually do it, right? How do we get that 90% advantage? Thankfully, the PMI gives us a really clear, actionable blueprint. It's a 5-step life cycle that helps you manage risk from the very beginning of a project all the way to the end. So the whole thing kicks off with step 1, plan risk. This is where you map out your strategy. Then you move to identify every single potential risk you can think of. Step 3 is where you analyze those risks. You figure out which ones are no big deal and which ones are serious threats. Step 4 is respond, where you build your action plans. And finally, step 5. Control, which is the part where you're constantly monitoring everything as the project goes on. It's a continuous loop, not something you just do once. Now, during that identify risk step, there's a super useful tool called risk meta-language. So instead of just saying something vague like the server might crash, you use this 3-part structure. You state the cause, something like because of our aging hardware. Then the actual risk. The main server could fail. And then the effect, resulting in a 48-hour service outage. See how much clearer and more actionable that is? Huge difference. Okay, but this whole process, it is not a solo mission for the project manager, not at all. To really make this work, risk management has to be a team sport. You need to have the right people in the right roles, all pulling in the same direction. So here are the key players on your team. You've got the project manager, who's kind of like the coach, orchestrating the whole thing. Then for each specific risk you find, you assign a risk owner. That's their baby to manage. The sponsor is absolutely critical. They're the one who signs off on the plan and, importantly, controls the money for any backup plans. And of course, you bring in your subject matter experts, your SMEs, for that deep technical knowledge you're going to need. All right, we have covered a ton of ground here. We've gone from a really common, pretty scary problem to a powerful, structured solution. So let's just boil this all down to the absolute must-remember points from this explainer. So let's recap. First, remember that project failure is super common, but it absolutely does not have to be your story. Second, doing risk management right can boost your chance of success by a whopping 90%. Third, the way to do it is to follow that 5-step life cycle. Plan, identify, analyze, respond, and control. And finally, don't forget that this is a team effort. You need that project manager, a risk owner, a sponsor, and your SMEs all working together. And that brings us to one final thought for you. Now that you've got the framework, take a second and actually apply it. Think about a big project at work or even a personal goal you have. What's the biggest unmanaged, unseen risk that's just kind of lurking in the background? Because just identifying it, that's the very first step to mastering it. Thanks for tuning in.